Celebrations continued in Barbados as the Caribbean islands became the world's newest republic. The latest discovered COVID-19 variant Omicron spreads in Europe, Africa, and North America, making epidemiological alarms sound. We have more on the matter in this news brief. And also, we keep our focus on Africa. In Ethiopia, 1.2 million students are being affected by the country's armed conflict. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your host, Gladys Quesada, and this is From the South with Stars News. Barbados became a republic, the youngest in the world. This is not only a political act, it is also a historical and social turning point in the collective identity of the Caribbean nation. This Tuesday, as the nation celebrates its independence anniversary, the new members of the cabinet were sworn in during a ceremony at the Heroes Square in Bridgetown. To go on the matter, we invite journalist and former Cuba's ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dexter Rose. Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon.
So Dexter, be welcome to From the South, and now we start with the first question. Barbados is now a republic, the newest in the world. What does this mean for other British overseas territories?
Well, what it means is that it would be a shining light for the other territories of CARICOM which have not yet made that move. As you would know, Guyana on the South American continent, which is part of CARICOM, under Forbes Burnham, went ahead first with independence, and then they separated formally from Britain, and they became a republic. Trinidad and Tobago followed next. Now that left what are the smaller islands of the Caribbean and Jamaica, the largest in the north. There's still always been a lot of trepidation about the whole idea because persons have had this maybe a colonial mindset. People have the fear that if you were to separate from Britain formally, we would not be able to travel, we would not get visas, we would not be able to enter the UK when we want to. Now, Barbados, ironically, has always been considered the most conservative of the former British Caribbean territories. And to see Barbados making this move, I think it's a great thing under Mia Mottley. And it's now it's gonna encourage countries like St. Vincent, which attempted to make that move in 2009 and failed in a referendum led by Rance Gonsalves. The opposition voted against the referendum, against that move. Grenada afterwards tried the same thing and failed. It is only of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean countries, only Dominica had gone ahead and had moved towards Republican status. But because Dominica's economy has never been very strong in the region, it was no big deal for a lot of persons. Barbados making this move, I think, is very positive and is going to instill a lot of confidence in the rest of us to follow suit.
Also, as its first day as a republic, Barbados is under an all-female ruling as President, the Honorable Sandra Mason, and the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, now hold the top positions. Can we say this is a groundbreaking progressive rule for the nation and also for the region?
Well, we are pretty conservative. In the region, we have had female leaders. We've only had Dame Eugenia Charles and Dominica before. And Mia Mottley came to this job with a lot of experience. And people here, my colleagues and I have been laughing and said that in Barbados, women rule. It is a positive thing because the Caribbean has lagged behind in terms of the participation of women in electoral politics. In the campaign politics within the political parties in the Caribbean, you have a lot more women participating in the campaigns. Up front, women, you see all the rallies and the majority of persons you see would be women. However, to go up for elections, to contest, we have been lagging in that. And Mia Mottley came with a lot of experience. She's young, she's dynamic, as is the new president. Dame Sandra Mason. And it is a good move, and I hope it will encourage other women to go towards electoral politics, because women bring something very special to the table when they get involved in political decision making. Over.
Yes, indeed. I hope this decision also encourages other female politicians to assume top positions. But we have another question, and this is more general. So, Dexter, how this decision to become a republic impacts on the Caribbean and also Latin America economically and politically?
Okay, it might seem to be symbolic, because even as you become a republic, it means that you're removing the Queen Elizabeth of England as your head of state. Now, an independent country really should not have a monarch from another country as your head of state. But within the British Commonwealth, most of the countries have maintained that. Australia, New Zealand, most of the rest of the countries. It means that we are telling our people that we are believing ourselves, that we are now masters of our destiny, and we can move forward on our own, while of course maintaining diplomatic and commercial relations with everybody. We have already been doing a fair bit of integration, with Latin America. Of course, Cuba and Venezuela have been leading it. And with this, we should see, I'd expect to see a whole lot more integration with the rest of Latin America, because in my time in diplomacy in Havana, matter of fact, I was St. Vincent's ambassador to Havana, not Havana's ambassador, of course. That was an error you mentioned in the beginning. What we found is that a lot of the Latin American nations are very ignorant of what happens in the smaller nations of the Caribbean, and vice versa. We would see a continued trust within diplomacy, within engagement with our neighbors in Latin America. And it can only do well for us as we go forward in terms of commercial relations, as we continue our diplomatic relations, our commercial relations. We need to go there, depend more on ourselves to push ourselves forward. Hope I'm clear, please.
So thank you, Dexter, for your time and also your opinions hearing from the South.
Thanks to you.
So we were talking to journalist and former ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to Cuba, Dexter Rose. We have more details in upcoming news briefs. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, beyond the regional and municipal elections held last November 21st, the National Electoral Council could not declare a winner after the vote counting in Barina state. The Supreme Court of Justice ordered the National Electoral Council to hold new elections for governor in Barinas on January 9, 2022, guaranteeing equal conditions in the participation of people with the right to vote in the state. The governor's candidates leading the elections in the state were Argenis Chavez from the ruling party and Freddy Superlano from the opposition. And now we move on to Honduras, where general elections were held on Sunday. With over 51% of the votes counted, presidential candidate for the Liberty and Refoundation Party, Xiomara Castro, is said to become the country's first woman president. Turnout in Sunday's elections was just over 68%. According to the current count, Xiomara Castro, wife of former ousted President Manuel Zelaya, has secured over 53% of the vote compared to conservative candidate of the ruling National Party, Nasri Asfoura, with almost 34%. The country's electoral council and observers have urged the candidates to avoid declaring victory until all the votes are counted. In Peru, President Castillo denied having met with businessmen at his home to illegally favor them with the concession of a public work, and also distanced himself from any corruption act and called for an investigation of the incident.
They have tried to associate me with disgraced and corrupt politicians of yesteryear, and to stain my honor and my reputation. They have tried to link the government of the people with acts of corruption. In the face of this, I firmly condemn and reject any act of corruption. Therefore, any person who betrays my trust and takes advantage of his or her position must be investigated and punished by the justice system.
Meanwhile, the Peruvian president declared a state of emergency in the Amazon, Cajamarca, Loreto, and San Martin regions affected by the earthquake and instructed the authorities to attend the affected population.
In these critical moments that we are living and that our brothers in the northeastern regions are living, my government is focused on assisting the affected population. Therefore, I announce to the country that I have ordered the declaration of emergency in the regions of Amazonas, Cajamarca, Loreto, and San Martin. From the first moment, I have personally directed the actions on the field, because I guarantee that we will not rest until all the affected population recovers the worthy living conditions that all Peruvians deserve.
Now we address other topics. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide has surpassed 260 million, as reported by the latest data from the World Health Organization, whereas Omicron has arrived in 8 European countries, including Austria, Sweden, and Spain, the Czech Republic, and Denmark. Omicron has also been detected in a growing number of countries and regions worldwide, prompting governments to tighten restrictions. South Korean President Moon Jae-in announced on Monday that the country will implement a 4-week vaccination campaign. The Australian government has also delayed the reopening of the country's borders after confirming 5 cases of the variant. The UK Health Security Agency said the latest 2 cases in London have links to travel in Southern Africa, but unlinked among previous cases. German media said on Monday that Germany will form a response team led by the military to cope with the worsening epidemic situation in the country. Also in Japan, health authorities have confirmed the first case of the new variant of coronavirus, Omicron, a 30-year-old man who recently arrived in the country from Namibia.
About an entrant from Namibia, I would like to announce that we have received a report from the Health Ministry that the National Institute of Infectious Diseases confirmed the Omicron variant after conducting genome analysis on the infected specimen.
Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno also said the man in his 30s was isolated and is being treated at a hospital after arriving at an airport on Sunday.
As we found out that he had tested positive at a quarantine station at an airport, we put him at a designated facility promptly and conducted a genome analysis. And then today we've confirmed that he had been infected with the variant Omicron.
Russian President Vladimir Putin calls for mutual recognition of vaccines against the coronavirus to help curtail the pandemic, as concern grows around the world about the fast-spreading Omicron variant. Russia, in August 2020, was the first country to register a coronavirus vaccine, Sputnik V, which has been approved for use in dozens of countries.
In the coming weeks, it will become clear how serious the consequences of the new strain are, but it is very clear that we need to be prepared for any change in the virus. Countries can effectively battle the coronavirus only by coordinating their actions. I mean the mutual recognition of vaccines and vaccination certificates, the availability of vaccines for all regions of the planet, and joint work on new drugs against the coronavirus.
Kenyans queued for coronavirus jabs on Tuesday as cases of the new potentially more contagious Omicron variant continue to emerge globally. Many citizens fear about the Omicron variant, which is ravaging the world, and therefore decided to go and get vaccinated. The Kenyatta National Hospital is one of the places used for the inoculation process. A widening circle of countries around the world have reported cases of the variant or have moved to restrict flights, while scientists race to figure out just how dangerous this virus version might be. The highest intensity of the Omicron variant has been reported in and around the South African cities of Johannesburg and Pretoria. Health authorities stated it has not been possible to predict a resurgence of the virus due to the new variant. They urge Kenyans to keep getting vaccinated and call on the government to improve access to jobs.
The other viruses that were there previously, that is the Delta virus, the Alpha variant, and all these other variants, there's also possibility of infection with this particular Omicron, though the studies are still ongoing on it. So we cannot still ultimately contribute any surges that are expected or that are ongoing to the Omicron. And you cannot say that it's the only source that will result in the resurgence.
At least 10 Brazilian capitals decided to not hold a New Year's Eve party this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the emergence of the Omicron variant. Authorities confirmed that Campo Grande, Fortaleza, Macapá, Belo Horizonte, Salvador, São Luís, João Pessoa, Palmas, Curitiba, and Teresina chose not to hold events to celebrate the turn of 2021 to 2022. Some cities will only have fireworks in large places or avenues to avoid the crowding. In Rio de Janeiro, during a meeting between the Scientific Committee and the Municipal Health Department, it was decided that it will keep the traditional fireworks display, on the beach this year. City halls throughout the country that canceled the festivities this year said concern about the pandemic and the emergence of a new variant of the coronavirus are the main reason for the decision. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. In Ethiopia, 1.2 million students are being affected by the country's armed conflict. Ethiopia's Ministry of Education reported that at least 1.2 million students remain away from school as a result of attacks by Tigray People's Liberation Front. It also reported that the armed group damaged at least 1,600 schools enrolling students in grades 1 to 6 and completely destroyed another 300. Also, 4 universities in Tigray and Waldia University in Hamra had to close. The Ethiopian government recently declared that the Tigray People's Liberation Front included the education system in its media campaign's attempts to dismantle the nation. And the round of talks aimed at reviving the nuclear deal with Iran, signed in 2015, restarted in Austria on Monday after a break of more than 5 months. In this context, the chief negotiator and deputy foreign minister of Iran expressed optimism after the first talks.
We had a constructive meeting with the JCPOA parties today, and the main item in the agenda was the US lifting its illegal sanctions against Iran. I believe that the atmosphere of the meeting could exert a positive impact on the success of the negotiations.
The aim was expressed by Wang Kun, China's envoy to the United Nations and other international organizations in Vienna. He put the lifting of the unilateral coercive measures imposed against Iran at the center of the talks.
The 6 rounds of negotiation, we register progress on sanction lifting, on nuclear activities, and on implementation. And this is the principle we should continue. And under such circumstances, we support the legitimate interests of Iran as far as sanction lifting is concerned. So all sanctions imposed by the United States, inconsistent of JCPOA, may it is of primary nature or secondary nature, must all be addressed and removed. And we hope that all participants will continue to focus on this issue as a priority. In conjunction, of course, We think nuclear activities implementations are also a matter of relevance, should be dealt with. And we appreciate the Iranian delegation adopt a very realistic approach by agreeing to basing itself together with all other delegations on where we left.
A Myanmar court on Tuesday adjourned a ruling against leader Aung San Suu Kyi at her trial for alleged instigation and violation of restrictions against COVID-19. Suu Kyi's defense presented a new witness who was admitted by the court. The trial is expected to continue on December the 6th, with his testimony requested by the Nobel Peace Prize winner's defense. Although the leader of the National League for Democracy has pled not guilty, the members of the military junta who have taken over the government say they will stand firm until she's tried. This happens despite warnings from the United Nations organization, which urged a peaceful resolution of the conflict before it reignites in a larger-scale social conflict in the country. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson also commended the United States' plans to expand its military bases in the Indo-Pacific, accusing the country of wantonly showing off their force and undermining regional peace and stability.
The relevant report by the Pentagon has fully exposed the true intention of the U.S. side to militarize the Indo-Pacific, and it shows they are sparing no efforts to encircle and contain China. China's development of its national defense forces is entirely necessary to safeguard its sovereignty, security, and development interests, and to safeguard international and regional peace and security. This is essentially different from U.S. attempts at wantonly showing off their force, seeking hegemony, and undermining regional peace and stability. We firmly oppose the U.S. side's use of the China threat theory as an excuse to increase military spending, expand military strength, and maintain military hegemony.
This Tuesday in Spain, civil servants and public workers in Catalonia have been called to a day of strike in rejection of the excess of temporary jobs and the decree approved by the government to regularize the situation. The Catalan civil servants are called to support the strike to demand that workers who have been in their posts for more than 3 years become permanent. It is expected that the mobilizations will take place in Girona, Lleida, Manresa, Tarragona, and Sabadell. So far, the unions calling the strike are part of the Taula Sindical de Catalunya and other union movements. A similar strike of interim public workers was held on 28 October with the same motive, which, according to the unions, was followed by 18% of interim employees. And a fire that devastated an abandoned bank branch in Barcelona, which was occupied by 2 families, left 4 people dead, including 2 children aged 1 and 3. The Barcelona City Hall spokesperson said firefighters managed to extinguish the blaze after rescuing 4 more people who are being treated for smoke inhalation. The floor where the family died used to be the offices of a bank, but had been squatted in a practice that some vulnerable families resort to when they are unable to pay for accommodation. The many abandoned buildings unsuitable for lodging but illegally occupied by homeless people in Barcelona and its neighboring areas are creating a serious risk. About a year ago, several people died in an abandoned warehouse occupied by scores of squatters in Badalona, a Barcelona suburb. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.